So good evening, everybody, and I appreciate you on this Journalism Masterclass. It's really good to have all of you here. This is something that we have put together with a Qasemo platform, essentially just to let you have a feel of journalism from my perspective. I'm not a journalism teacher. I am not a journalism professor. I'm just a student of journalism who has done this for some time. And I thought that I could share my experiences and ideas with a few people, and also share ideas with people who want to enter this job called journalism or profession. There is an argument over whether journalism is a trade or is a profession or is a job. It's a debate we can all have, and then we can see what exactly it is based on all your perspectives. I believe I have I may not have been as experienced as some people who have done this for decades. I may not have gone to school to learn to teach journalism, but I have studied journalism from Ghana's premier university in communication. That's the Ghana Institute of Journalism. I've studied the diploma program in communication for 2 years, that is from 2008 to 2010. I diploma in communication studies during this period. And then I joined CTFM as a national service person in 2010. I worked at CTFM for 2 years. I did news reporting, I did news production, and a little bit of news presentation. Then in 2012, I went back to the Ghana Institute of Journalism to do the top-up program. So from 2012 to 2014, I did the degree or Bachelor of Arts in Communication Studies. And in 2014, I obtained my certificate as a degree holder in communication. Now, so 2014, I was still working at CTFM while doing this. I was a producer, presenter, and reporter mostly. From 2015, I began hosting The Big Issue. It's a Saturday morning discussion show on radio on CTFM. Then 2016 into 2017, I think in early 2018, I started hosting Eyewitness News, which is our flagship program on radio, 5:30 p.m. or 17:30 GMT, as I like to call it, to 7 p.m. or 1900 GMT, which also has Point Blank as a segment. In 2018, CTFM established City TV, or we had City TV in addition to our company. And so I went to be one of the so I went on to become the presenter of one of our major news bulletins on TV at 8 p.m. called City Newsroom. That's CNR. I do that with my head of news, with my boss, Vivian Kailoko. And then in 2020, the company decided to let me do a one-on-one show called Face to Face, which is a show that airs on Tuesday evenings at 9 p.m., where I engage guests and do a one-on-one interview with them. So that's what I do up to now. I do TV news at 8 p.m. for 1 hour. I do radio news from 5:30 p.m. every weeknight for 1.5 hours. And then I do face-to-face, which is for 1 hour. In addition to that, I am in the newsroom. I assist the head of news. I produce stories. I edit stories. So I'm the guy who will edit your story when you go on the field and come back with your radio script or TV script. I look through for you. Before I joined CTFM, I did 1 year internship with TV3. And before I did that with TV3, I did 1 month, 2 months actually, internship with Sena Radio, which is defunct, but it's now called Atinka FM. So that's been my trajectory. My first award in this job came in 2012. I won the Radio for Peace Building Awards. I flew to the capital of Rwanda, which is Kigali, for that ceremony to pick up the first prize award. In 2014, I traveled to the capital of Sweden, which is Stockholm, to pick up the Water and Sanitation and Hygiene Award known as the WASH Awards. Then in 2016, I think I must have picked up 1 or 2 awards. In 2017, I picked an award at the Ghana Journalists Association Awards, that's the GJ Awards night, as the best reporter in WASH. And then I think that same period, I also picked up an award as the Broadcast Journalist of the Year at the Muslim Achievers Awards in 2017. Yeah, I think that's pretty much what it has been. In 2018, the American Embassy chose me alongside 50 other journalists across the world. So I was the only journalist from Ghana, along other journalists across the world, to spend 3 weeks in the United States of America under what they call the International Visitor Leadership Program. I was there when they called me and said, we have chosen you because we see the work you're doing. We want you to come to America and see the kind of work we do. And we spent 3 weeks touring various states of America. So we started off in Washington, D.C., which is not a state necessarily, but it's their capital city. Then we went to Kentucky. That's the hometown of Muhammad Ali, the boxer. Louisville is their capital. From there, we went to Santa Fe in New Mexico, it's another state. And then from there, we went to St. Petersburg in Florida, where we rounded up our trip and then returned to Ghana. So that would be my general experience in journalism. And so I just wanted you to have this at the back of your mind, so that I am not a teacher of journalism in the sense of the word, but I have some practical experience. I have interviewed lots of people, big people, small people, middle people, everybody. I have done many interviews. Some of these interviews have been problematic for the interviewees. Some have been positive for the interviewees. I do not intend any of these things. I just do my interviews as I do them. One of the popular interviews people remember me for is the interview I did with Enoch Mensah, or E.T. Mensah. He was an MP for Ningo Prampram. That interview, many believe, was part of the reason he lost his seat as the longest serving, or one of the longest serving MPs in Ghana, and one of the oldest politicians. There was an interview I did with the Tema West Member of Parliament, the Honorable, his name Carlos Ahinkra, you remember him, from the night that Parliament was transitioning. This was when he had tested positive for COVID-19, and he decided that he and his driver would move around and go to registration centers where election registration was happening. And that interview, some believe, put him in trouble and he had to be fired, or he resigned as a Minister for Trade. I've done a lot of other interviews. I've done one popular one with John Dumelo that people like to talk about. Many people made fun of him. I was never intending for that to happen to him, but unfortunately it happened to him. And then several other interviews on radio and on TV. I do all of these interviews, and people seem to like it. Some don't like it, but hey, that's what it is. So I decided, with the support of this Qasemo team, that's Caleb and his team, that let's have a conversation. Let's set up a class and teach or educate or interact with people who are interested in journalism. And this would include student journalists, and so on. Anybody, if you can be an engineer or anything, if you're interested in the job called journalism and you want to know how I do what I do, you're free to join this class. There are a lot of people who have already registered. The first class is starting next week, Friday, and it's for 8 weeks. We're doing an 8-week course, which is 2 months. We give you a certificate at the end of the day. Now, we have people who have registered already and paid up, but the doors are still open from tonight to next week if you want to join. It's 500 CDs if you want to be a student in this class. And it is going to be virtual. It's 1 hour a week, which we've put on Friday evenings, but we can change it if the unanimous house, or there's a decision by the house that we should change it. And so that's what we're going to do. Tonight, we're just doing an introduction, and to get to know you, and then you get to know me. We get to interact and ask each other questions, and we can see what we can do. A few things I want us to look at while we move into this discussion. I have some pointers that I have put up in this particular discussion, and the classes ahead. We have a whole syllabus we are running. But there are a few things we need to look at. So journalism, what exactly is that animal called journalism? It's a conversation I would be having with you all here. What is journalism? I say it simply, journalism is a gathering of news, processing of news, and presentation of news. That is what I call journalism. It is not a textbook quote, so don't ask me for citation. This is practical experience I'm sharing with you. Now, in the textbook, they have various definitions, but this is my personal experience and practice. Journalism is a gathering, processing, and presentation of publication of news. And this could be done on a newspaper, it could be done on radio, on television, online, and the new devil in town called social media. Why is it necessary, this tool called journalism? Now, journalism is as important as medicine. Journalism is as important as farming. Journalism is as important as driving, because journalism has brought about governments, has toppled governments. And so journalism, I believe, is a big deal. My friend and brother who lives and comes from Sierra Leone, he's called Umaru Sanda. He's a correspondent of the BBC in Sierra Leone, in Freetown. He said something to me, that journalism is the only profession that will be required on Judgment Day. And he said it's in jest, but there's some truth in it. He says it's the only profession that will be required on Judgment Day. And I asked him why. He said, why? Or after judgments, as in when we go to heaven. He said, in heaven, no one is going to fall sick, so there'll be no need for a doctor, right? No one's going to be hungry, so there'll be no need for a farmer. No one needs to be transported anywhere, so we don't need a driver. I mean, no one needs to fly to Puerto Rico anywhere. You don't need a pilot. You don't need an engineer, because God is a master engineer. And yet, God would need communication to interact with his people. I mean, even the devil, I'm sure, would need communication to say, go into hell, that kind of thing, if you are someone who enjoys those movies. So Umaru Sanda told me that journalism is the only tool that will be required in the hereafter. And I agree with him, so I always like to give him that credit. So if you disagree with me, please let me know what you think. So that's something we'll be looking at. So what are the benefits of journalism? One, to the practitioner. What is the benefit of journalism to the practitioner? These are what I think. It satisfies your conscience and puts your mind at ease. For instance, as a practitioner, you have noticed that there's a footbridge that is destroyed somewhere. You're worried that someone may die because they will fall and so on. As a journalist, you carry your camera or your microphone or your whatever, you tell that story, and that footbridge is fixed. You can have a good night's sleep knowing that when it rains, nobody's going to be killed. You see some recklessness happening as a journalist, you use your tool to tell that story, and there's a change, you get peace of mind. Of course, to the practitioner, you also get money, right? You do journalism, it's my job, for instance, my full-time job. I get paid for it, that's where I earn my salary from, and so on. So those are the things that I would say to the practitioner, just a few. What is the use of journalism to the consumer? You, the consumer, what's the use of journalism to you? A lot. There are news addicts. When I was growing up, I had my radio with me. Now, when I miss the news, it's like a headache. And if you're a news consumer, you know what that means. During the coup d'etat days, politicians were always listening to the 6 o'clock news, or the 6 p.m. news, or whatever news that was at the time, because at the time it was only Ghana Broadcasting Corporation, as in GBC. And if you miss that news, you have missed a lot. So everybody would tune in at that specific time. The whole community has one radio, they all listen. And they are like news junkies, and they have to listen. And because that's how they survive. They have to know what's happening. If you go to a lot of countries, journalism gives them all of that, and that is journalism. So that's something that the consumer can get. You get informed, they say you get entertained, you get educated. All of that comes through journalism and communication. So that's to the consumer, what I would say your benefits would be. And to the world, what is the use of journalism? Journalism is very useful to the world because journalism keeps the world going and informed. If you get to the airport, you see newspapers all over. They want you to see what's happening. You get to the airport if you're traveling. The first thing you do is to watch the TV and see. You may see a breaking news about your country or your president or something, and that would keep you glued and confused and possibly excited. So to the world, journalism moves the world in one way, or more in many ways than one, like the expression goes. Is journalism a dying profession? That's a conversation I would like all of us to have, because there is something called social media which has come. All of us here, all the participants on this Zoom discussion tonight, you have telephones or mobile phones in your hands. You have Twitter accounts, Instagram accounts, Facebook accounts. If you see anything, you can just take a picture and you are telling the news. So the question is, has journalism, was a word, become so complex that everybody now is doing it? And what does it mean? Does it mean the traditional media as we have it is dying? Would you stop listening to the radio? Would you stop watching the TV because Instagram will give you the videos, Twitter will give you the headlines, and Facebook will give you the Facebook Live, and YouTube is ready to give you all of that? So that's a discussion that's been going away. Now there are robots that are presenting the news in some parts of the world. So for journalism students, you have to be ready, and otherwise, Charlie, this job, you may just end up losing it to a robot or somebody. You get my point. What are the downsides to journalism? It's another point that I put down. The negative effects of journalism. People have so many things to say against journalists. They say we take solely. They say we do things to kill stories, and so on. A lot of these things are said, but hey, we are just a profession, just like every other profession. And so, like every other profession, we have our positives and our negatives. And so, having said these things, I would say you are very welcome to our discussion tonight. If you want to register for the class starting next week, we have shared some links that you can follow. If you have a difficulty, send us a private chat, or you can come into the inbox of any of our, either myself or the name on it that you see as Caleb. So either Caleb or myself, you can just send us private messages, and we can give you ideas how you can register. And the cost, like I said, is only 500 cedis. We are starting next week. Tonight, though, is just a free class where we are all going to have a chat. I have submitted, and I'm willing and ready now to listen to you all. Let me just see by hand, and I will invite you to speak. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Sanda, for the wonderful presentation so far. So if you have any questions, you can just show by hands, then I'll allow you in. I see Cletus in here. So Cletus, you can speak, please.
Yeah, thank you so much for the opportunity. Umaru, I'm glad that I'm having kind of an up close contact with you now. It's my first time. I've personally been following you closely on Facebook. I've read your article on the cowboy and all the things that you do on Facebook. I actually use a Facebook handle Paco Fiado, which is not my full name, so it's my local name. I'm glad to be part of this conversation. I would love to register for the event. So, like you rightly put it, I'll hit you up in your inbox so that we can take it from there. But my question is, I've been looking for City Newsroom on App Store. When I used to use the lower version of the phone, and the iPhone I'm using now, I had it. But when I upgraded to a newer version, I'm unable to have it on my phone. I don't find it on App Store. I have asked that question a few times on Facebook, but I've not had any response from any of you guys. Is there a reason why we are unable to access City Newsroom on App Store? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Cletus, for your question. So Sandra will answer soon. If there is anyone here who has any question, you can bring it in, or you can show by hands. Then you can speak. Yeah, if you show by hands, I would like to speak. Sandra, so I think you had the question on the City Newsroom app thing. Yeah, I mean, this is not a platform, but you can still answer, so you can go ahead.
Okay. Am I visible?
Yeah, you are visible.
Okay, thank you. I hope there's no feedback. I'm using two devices now, trying to catch up here. The network is, forgive me, but yeah, I'm sure I'm audible. Am I audible? Or there's an echo? Is there an echo?
It's fine. It's fine here.
Okay. So good evening, Cletus. Thank you for your question. I do not work with the City News digital team, which runs this particular thing you're discussing. But what I know is that there is a little challenge with the app, which is the City Newsroom app. And the developers are actually trying to fix that so that you get to listen to our content and also watch our content. So forgive me, apologies for that hitch, but they're working on it, and then I'm sure very soon you get us back on the City Newsroom app. Yeah, thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Omar.
Yeah, so do I have other questions? You can just show me your hand. I see Thomas Citizen's hand is up. Thomas, let me allow you in. Thomas, you can go ahead.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening, Thomas.
All right, first of all, I must thank you for pulling that surprise visit on me that very day that I always follow you on social media, but on that 31st, I think December, 31st December is a day that I will never forget. Thank you very much, and I'm happy meeting you in person. Now, to my question.
The pleasure is mine.
The question for me is,
I was going to tell the whole class how you froze, but I will not tell them.
Thank you very much. My question is, what makes you different from other journalists? I want you to speak for yourself. Though we always say a whole lot of things about you, but I want to hear from you yourself. What makes you different from other journalists? Thank you.
What a big question. I don't know what I'm going to say about this. What makes me different? I don't know. I guess I am different because I'm the last born of 7 children who haven't gone to school except me. I am a cowboy who has become a journalist. I'm not sure there are many journalists who were once. I don't know. I guess journalism is so is it for many people. But that's a big question, Thomas. I have to research on it. Forgive me. I cannot answer, but I don't know what to say. I don't know. If I'm different, then it's God who decided to make me so. And maybe a little more training, a little more seriousness, a little more commitment and determination is what makes me different. That's what I think.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, so James, you can also ask your question, James. You can go ahead.
Okay, thank you and good evening, Umaru and the rest of us here. Looks like Thomas took the question from me. I had wanted to ask what made you, or what is making you such a fantastic interviewer, because looks like your interviewing skills are quite unique to the entire industry, if I should put it that way. You come with your own style and your own cynicism, and it plays so well for you. I wanted to know what makes you so good in interviewing particularly. And two, what's the difference in experience between the first interview you did with E.T. Mensa and the subsequent one you did recently? Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think cynicism is nice. Being a cynic is a good thing. And also being someone who knows how to play with sarcasm is a great thing, because I always say that it takes a lot of intellect to be sarcastic or to possess sarcasm. Every now and then I drop it in there, and I don't even do it deliberately. Often when I'm being sarcastic or when I'm showing sarcasm in there, as some people want to call it, it's not even deliberate. I guess it's my life. I've been like that from primary school and GSS. I've always asked questions of teachers that would confuse them. Not confuse them. Sometimes I ask the teacher, I'm like, what? What are you talking about? You know, like for instance, I remember I asked my pre-technical skills teacher a question. I said, sir, this front elevation we are drawing, this drawer we are learning how what the type of a hacksaw. I'm not going to be a carpenter, my brother. Why am I learning this? What do I need this for? And that question was obviously a little higher than he expected, or maybe I don't know. And he couldn't answer me. He couldn't explain to me why I needed those skills, pre-technical skills. He didn't explain to me. What he said to me was that if you go to the BEC and the question comes, sit down and ask them why you have to write the answer, you know. And the whole class burst laughing. I knew I had asked a good question, but for some reason, many people thought it was stupid. And that's the same thing I do on the radio now. I try to ask you the question, and when I'm asking you, it's a hypodermic needle. I just punch, and I just keep quiet and watch you. And sometimes it's exciting to watch people struggling after you throw the question, and they just sometimes I put on the mic and have a good laugh. Sometimes I just watch and see what they would say. But that is what it is, and that's what I have to do. I think I didn't catch the second leg of your question. Could you remind me again, please?
Okay, so I asked, what is the difference in the
Oh, great, about ET Mensa, fantastic. So the first interview I did, this was 2014, 2015. I was a small boy. Well, I'm still a small boy. But this man has been a mayor when I was born. I think he was a mayor of Accra at the time I was born or something like that. So Charlie, like, he's a huge man. He's a big man. And for me, a small journalist coming and sitting in front of him and asking him a question, how dare me? And he was a god, or no, at the time, he was a member of parliament. He's a big man. But you see, what he didn't know is I had knowledge of his constituency because he shared boundaries with my area. And at the time, he suspected maybe I was doing the bidding of his opponents, that's someone at George. And he became very agitated and angry. But one thing I have learned is that when an interviewee is angry, I should not be angry. Because when I become angry, we lose the plot. So I just keep quiet and watch you perform. What happened in that interview? He was very angry and he couldn't control his emotions. But in the next interview, what happened and what you realized was that there was some level of maturity because it's been a lot of water has passed under the bridge. He had gone on Star FM and called me all manner of names, but he has realized that I was just doing my job professionally. And so when we sat there to do that interview the second time, I guess we both had respect for each other. Plus, he has become a little older now, and he's not really actively involved in politics. So there really isn't much to hold him to. And so if you notice, we both, had some space for each other. And that's how the conversation went. And I guess that was the difference. Thank you.
Thank you too.
All right, so I can see Kofi Adom has a question. Kofi, you can go ahead, please.
Thank you. I've used a different device. This is Cletus. Umaru, I watched your interview with Paul Adom Ochre, now board chairman of Ghana Airport Company. And I noticed that at some point, I mean, this runs through most of your interviews. Comes to me as though he had become angry. I don't have the right words to this, but his demeanor showed somebody who had been angered by something. I want to know, how do you respond to this at the point when you realize that your question is hitting too hard, the one you are interviewing? How do you take it personally?
I don't take it anyway. I just close my mind and my eyes. I mean, okay, if I close my eyes, I can't watch you, but I just close my mind and just watch you blank and see you do what you have to do. I don't know whether he was angry or not. I don't remember. But what you all may not remember or know is that Paul Adom Ochre was the first host of Eyewitness News, which is a show on which I hosted him. Paul is so experienced. When he was doing that show in 2004, I was in secondary school in Form 2. And when he started this job in the 90s, I was probably in primary school. So he has so much experience and he's educated and he has so much up his sleeves. But you see, when it comes to interviewing and journalism, it is not about age, It is about extracting questions or information from people. I sat down with my producers and we're like, Paul Adom Ochre, everybody's talking about him. Everybody's talking about the kind of journalism he does. They call him Agenda Nyami and all of that. Why don't you bring him in and have a chat with him? Because first of all, he's a journalist, but he's also serving on a board, which is a political one. And people were saying that he's an agenda. Speak to him about it. That's why I brought him in the studio. And for me, at the end of the day, I walked out of that interview happy that I have learned something from him. And I hope he has also learned something from me, no matter how small. And he and I, when we finished our interview, we came out of the studio and we spoke. We had a chat before he left. So I don't think he was angry. If he was, he didn't say it to me, but he didn't leave here angrily. And after that, he and I have spoken. So, Charlie, I have to do what I do, and that's my job. And it's cool.
All right, so if you have any questions, just show by hand with the emoji or something like that. You can, I'll give you the chance to answer the question. I think Thomas, you can go ahead and speak.
Okay, thank you for the opportunity. Sanda, I want to ask this. When I started practicing this media profession, I actually did not go to JIJ, but I went to a media institute. When I was working at one of the radio stations in Buta region, when they send me to the field, sometimes certain things that I see on the field, next time when they send me, there is a fear in me to say exactly what I see on the field, with the expectation that I might be get hurt or they will do something to me. So I want to know, do you also get that feeling sometimes, or is it something that is in journalism?
When you say you're afraid that you'll get hurt because of things you see or said, clarify. I'm not sure I understand you clearly.
Okay. Let's say you meet, where you go, you meet, let's say somebody who is higher, like in a top position in government, and you reporting on that person. Sometimes, like you look at your background and say, oh, you are nobody. How can you talk about this person? Like that kind of fear.
Okay. I think the first thing you need to learn to do and have as a journalist is courage. If you don't have courage, you can't do this job. It is courage supported by knowledge. Now, if you're knowledgeable, you are very powerful, because it is knowledge that will give you the opportunity to fire the question without fear. It gives you the courage. When you know something, you feel cool, right? Your shoulders are high up. Like when you're going to write examination, when you know that Charlie, this one will be cocoa cry, you walk into the exam hall with some smile. That's what a journalist needs. Knowledge serving as the foundation for their courage, so that even if it's a president who approaches you, you can fire your questions knowing that you have your facts and your knowledge right. So I guess unless you work for a media house that is very politically tainted and you are not allowed to do some things to portray a certain political party, then you decide whether you want to do that or you want to quit the media house entirely. I mean, there are media houses that are openly blue or green. And it is up to you as a journalist to decide whether you want to work with them or not. There's no crime in doing that, you know. And so what I'll say to you that if you work with a media house and you have a difficulty asking the right questions, maybe you want to reconsider your stay there. There are media houses that are owned by politicians. But if the politician wants to run a media house, it should be run as a business and as a professional institution. And if you don't get that, I'm afraid you would want to hop out. That's what I can say in advice to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Uncle Fiadum, you can go ahead. And please, if there's anyone who has any question, you can still ask by clicking on the raise hand. I think it's raise hand around at the bottom of your screen, your Zoom screen. So you can just click on it and I'll see the sign there.
And if you don't have the...
So let's go ahead.
Okay, and if you don't have the technical and technological knowledge like me, you can't see your raised hand, just unmute yourself and start talking. We'll notice that you want to talk and then we can allow you in. Thank you. Please come in.
All right, thank you very much, Umar. Yeah, the next one is I find some semblance between your interviewing skills and that of what's her name? Delores Frimpong. You end up setting the tone for conversation. I mean, at the end of your face-to-face or any of your shows that you host, we end up having something to talk about the following day or the next few days. At what point do you say that I am satisfied with what I went into the interview with? So I am asking myself, at what point does Umaru Sanda say that, look, I have gotten information out of this person?
Thank you. Dolores Rimpomanzo Delay. I love her work. I love what she does. She's my senior way, but I followed the kind of work she does. Even though she broadcasts in Tree, her approach, how she'll look you in the face and ask you, have you had sex before? I tell you, that's wow. She looks at you in the eye, she looks at you and says, have you stolen money before? Charlie, and you will be like, what, me? Wait, what am I? Before you realize you started answering. And it's a trick that I think I've copied from her. How do I know an interview is good? Usually I like to leave these things to the listeners and the audience. But when I'm doing the interview, even though I'm the one asking the question, it is not my satisfaction that is needed. It's the satisfaction of the listener or the viewer. And usually the feedback I get, and mostly social media will give you a lot of feedback, is what I use to judge. There are times I come out of an interview and everybody likes, you haven't done well, they finish me, insult me, and all of that. There are times we challenge thumbs up, everybody's finished, then you know that it has gone well. So immediately that's what I use. Of course, I also have editors and people, producers, who give me immediate feedback when I come out of the studio. I have people who send me direct messages on my WhatsApp and so on, tell me that, oh, for this one, you should have gone this way or that way. 2 days ago, I did an interview with Samuel Kujeto Ablakwa. He's a Northern Member of Parliament.
Yeah.
In the course of the interview, he was charting the path. I kept bringing him back, but he kept going. And I had to end the conversation with him. One thing I hate to do in my interviews is to cut an interviewee. I don't like it. No matter how rude you are to me, I like to end my interview successfully, have a good landing. Unfortunately, the interview, we had to end it or truncate it midway. I've got lots of people who have reacted to that. Lots of people who are not happy. Others have said, hey, you tolerated people like the North Ashanti regional minister, so why didn't you tolerate this guy? Others too said, no, what you did was good. A lot of, so I put all of that in my stride. And hey, I'm still young and I'm still learning and I'm still growing. So I guess it's one of those things. But yeah, I usually leave my listeners to decide. Thank you.
I'm not done, please. I have another one.
You can,
I have another one.
You're not
If I
done.
can quickly add that, please.
I don't. Can you hold on for some people to just ask if that's okay?
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. I'll wait.
I'll call you back. Yeah, I don't.
Right,
please hold on. Maybe the ladies ask 1 or 2 questions. All right. So, Portia, I can go ahead and ask your question.
Okay, thank you. Please, can you hear me?
Yeah, so Portia, you can go ahead. Yeah, we can hear.
Okay, Mr. Sanda, you mentioned earlier that we were going to run a full syllable curriculum, something like that, I heard. Is it possible to put it out? Can we know the outline, what we are going to do every week, so that we prepare for it, and then the next week when we come and we start fully, we would, we may or may not have read around what we are going to do, and then we can have a very active class that we can all contribute to. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Portia. So if you missed the beginning of the introduction, I explained that this class we are having is a free-for-all class, but it is just an introductory class. So you can call it the first class or the first lesson, where we are getting to know each other and have an idea what program we are running. So I've given highlights of some of the issues we'll be discussing in the coming weeks. But what we are doing is that we have a master class on journalism. So Journalism Masterclass, which has 1 hour class every week, and we are fixed Friday evenings for it. But it is paid for, and it is 500 cedis. So you register. If you register, you become a part of the class. And when you become a part of, so from next week, you will not be able to join unless you are a member of the class. Only class members will get to join, and that's after you pay your registration fee and join. So if you want to know the programs that we run or will be doing for the next 8 weeks, please hit me privately or enter Caleb's inbox or any of us, and then we can just give you the details of the specific topics we'll be treating. And if you find that exciting, you can register, and shall we a game next week Friday? We have our first class, and it'll be exciting. I'll be happy to have you around, Portia. So please hit me privately or Caleb, and then we get this running. Thank you so much.
Thank you too. Got it.
Okay, I say you can go ahead and ask your question here.
Hear me. I hear me.
Yeah, I say please just sound this a bit low. Okay, yeah, better now, better now.
You can hear me now.
You
Okay. Me, my
can go
like
ahead.
after that, yeah, yes. Umaru Sanda, I'm impressed with your achievements. I mean, you've achieved a lot. I mean, it just pushes some of us that like, if we work hard, we can achieve so much in life. And the question about some Kujeta Black White has already been answered.
Yes.
So I just wanted to say that I'm impressed with your achievements and that, yeah, I'm impressed with your achievements, like, and it just shows young people like us that if we put our minds to it, we can achieve it. A lot and make impact. Yeah, that's what I want to say.
Okay, thank you so much.
As journalists, yeah.
I say your network is breaking, but I think I've got a cracks of what exactly you're trying to say. Thank you so much. I'm excited to hear what you say. My motto is determination. Determination is my driver, and my brakes are faulty. When I send you an email, that's what is at the bottom.
Hello, did you hear me?
Yes, I did. I heard you, and I'm responding to you. So I'm saying that I'm happy to hear what you said. I'm grateful. And I said I'm guided by determination, and I have a personal principle that says determination is my driver, and my brakes are faulty. I'm happy to hear that. I look forward to having further interactions with you in class about the Ablakwa issue. I think I've addressed that already, my personal views. At the time when I did what I did, I thought that was the right thing to do, and I actually stand by it. And given another opportunity, I most likely will do the same thing I did. Thank you so much. I have someone staring me in the face. Has he been accepted to talk already?
Yeah, so Cletus or Kofi Adom, you can go ahead and ask a question.
Is it boring?
Yeah, Kofi Adom, please you can go ahead and ask your question. If you're not in, then James, you can go ahead as well.
Okay, thank you for the second chance. Umaru, I have two questions again. First one, about your interview with Paula Dumotri. In fact, I think 2 days later, we had to subject that to some discussion in class. And for me, it looked like a lot of people feel that, one, you were too respectful on that interview. It looks like you as you said, Paul is big. He's been doing that. He's been on your seat before. So there was too much respect from you to him. And so you left a lot of questions hanging, questions that you will probe. Had it been a different person, you left a lot of them hanging. For instance, when you ask him about him being a journalist and taking up a political appointment, I think he said some things that didn't, in some of us, our view, didn't really answer the question, but you couldn't probe further with a couple of other ones. And so I just want to ask sincerely, were you overwhelmed or too respectful in that interview? After everything you went back, did you feel that you could have done more than you did on that interview? My second question is, can you be politically inclined and still make a good journalist? Or all good journalists, to be a good journalist, you don't have to? I don't know if it comes across clear. Thank you.
Thank you. Your question is very clear. Let me answer the last one first. Can you be a politically inclined person? As in, can you be an active politician and be a journalist? I would say no. People think it's yes. It's fine. I say that journalism, we are supposed to what? Comfort the afflicted and afflict the comfortable. Who is the comfortable? The politician. Who is the afflicted? The common man on the ground. Now, as a journalist, you are with the common man on the ground, who is the afflicted person. The moment you become comfortable, that's a politician side, you can't, a knife that has two mouths cannot cut with both at the same time. You can just use one. So you can't be a journalist and also be the one who's supposed to be the duty bearer, because journalists, our job is to hold the duty bearer or hold his feet to the fire. And yet you are the duty bearer and you're also the journalist. So imagine if I were the minister for roads, then I'll come and sit on Eyewitness News. Good evening, coming up tonight, residents of Ashalebuche complain about poor roads. I have on the line, oh, I don't have anyone on the line. I'm the one on the line, so let me respond. Good evening, Umaru, you're welcome. Okay, good evening, thank you very much. Why are the road residents of Ashalebuche suffering? You haven't fixed their road. Okay, Umaru, you know, the government, we are doing, Akufo-Addo says something. I mean, imagine, does that work? It will not. So that's what I think. You can, however, declare your political stance and still do journalism, except that you are promoting a certain cause. So everyone who is listening to you knows that for this guy is doing journalism to make sure NDC wins power, or for this guy is doing journalism to ensure MPP remains in power. That one too is fine. So when you announce it, your listeners know, your viewers know. I have no problem with that. So that way, when I'm dealing with you, I know how I'm dealing with you as a consumer. So that there are over 300 radio stations in Ghana. When you decide which one you tune into. So do you want to tune into the one that will give you NPP propaganda, or the one that will give you MPP propaganda, or the one that will give you the masses propaganda? That is your choice, absolutely. That will be my answer to your first question. The second question, I've forgotten the first question. Charlie, forgive me, I'm not taking notes.
Okay, so my first question was, some of your publics feels
good.
It's
fine. I got it. Thank you. My humble last born, a small boy. I know grow, so respect, I have to give it. But I often say that if you have been interviewed and you want respect, then go and be a chief so that people will bow when they speak to you. My job is not to respect you. I mean, I'll respect you and all of that, but like to come and kneel down in front of you, that kind of thing. If you want that, go and be a chief so that there'll be people who are fanning your feet and all of that. I don't know whether I was too respectful to Paul. If I was, I'm not sure respect is a crime. I wasn't overwhelmed. I wasn't overly excited. I have met Paul Adumotri 1,000 times. He comes to my office. We have a chat. I have been on his show. Paul Adumotri hosted me in 2015 on Good Evening Ghana as a panelist to discuss the elections. And I did what I had to do. And I think I went on his shows twice or thrice. So I'm not starstruck by Paul Adumotri, if that's what you thought. Again, if people thought that there were questions I could have asked him, but I was overwhelmed or scared. 3 days to election 2016, the Akufo-Addo campaign wanted some journalists to interview him. journalists who were asking the hard questions. They settled on Evans Mensah of Joy FM and myself, 2016. That was just 3 days before the elections. Mind you, Evans Mensah had been doing journalism since I was a cowboy, since I was in GSS. I had to sit down with him and ask questions at the same time of Nana Akufo-Addo, the candidate who was going to be president just in 3 days. Any of you can go back and watch that interview. It is online on Facebook. And Akufo-Addo, I believe, was more powerful and stronger at the time than Oladomotre is now. I looked him in the face and I threw my questions. So if I wasn't afraid of him, and I wasn't afraid of, and I'm not afraid of him as a president now, I can ask him my questions when he avails himself. I don't think I should be afraid or scared of Oladomotre. But I guess people have various interpretations to whatever happens. And hey, everybody have how they understand what happens. So I don't begrudge them. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Sanda. So Cletus,
thank you once again, Umaru Sanda. Thank you once again. A few months ago, I mean, majority of us were under the impression that there's a culture of silence and that journalists are not allowed to talk and so on and so forth. If you attempted to report a news, you are either attacked or tagged under a certain brand and so on and so forth. Omar, will you agree? I mean, I had time to question why that mantra all of a sudden, because I still watched all your programs on CTTV. I still listen to you on Face to Face and the other programs. Every program that is topical, as I had come to know, was airing, both on radio and on TV. Yet the torchbearers, the frontliners, were still drumming all over the place that there is this culture of silence. What is your take on it? And then the next question that I want to ask is, to add to that one, do you feel safe? Did you feel safe at the time? Do you still feel safe as a journalist now? And then the next thing, the second question is, I would like for you to share with us a situation that challenged your integrity as a journalist and what you did to uphold your integrity.
Okay, for that particular one, it happens every day, all the time, anywhere. There are interviews you want to do and people want to see you before the interview or after the interview and all of that. It happens. So for the integrity fight, it always happens. But sometimes you just have to look at it and like, what is my job? I'm supposed to ask questions. That's why I earn salary. You can give me 100 CDs so that I don't do my job now, but my value would diminish or reduce and my employer will fire me and go and bring someone who is more professional. So which one do you want, the constant salary or the one-off salary? It happens all the time. It's your choice that you have to make. The second question you talked about.
Culture of silence.
Culture of silence. I wasn't directly attacked by anybody, but there were lots of attack dogs on social media who have gone on a virtual attack. I haven't physically been attacked in this line of duty before. And so they are there. Now, there are others who have been directly or physically or verbally assaulted and attacked. Those people have said that they felt that they had to be silent to be alive. I stand with them. I err on the side of the journalist. My brother and colleague, Manas Azuri, told us how he had to escape from this country because he was targeted. He had to have police escort with him, and I have seen him with them a number of times. That's not journalism. I mean, that's not how journalism should be practiced. I shouldn't be having a policeman guiding me. I move around town and people say to me, Charlie, are those questions you ask, if you're dating, or those people, they'll be wicked, or they will come after you. I say, well, I have to do my job. And I said that if you attack the journalist, it's a shame, because when a farmer is going to his farm, you don't attack him. When a driver is going to town to do his work, a carpenter is going to do his job. So why do you attack the journalist who's going to pay him from his own pocket to help you, member of the community, to develop? And the saddest part for me is when I see the attack coming from ordinary people whose work we are actually trying to do. It's really painful. It's really painful. Thank you. Caleb, I think we should be able to end at 8:30. We have really run out of time.
Yeah, it's past 8:30. So Abbas, you've not heard Abbas speak. Abbas, you can go ahead. then we take a say, then we can close for the evening. Sanda, is that okay?
Yes, it's fine. Thank you so much.
I say.
No problem. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Caleb. My internet has not been stable from the onset, so I missed some part of your submission, Mr. Sanda. But I want to know if there will be certification after the masterclass. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Abbas. For those who missed this segment, Caleb, are we able to share the live discussion on Facebook or any other platforms? Can we do that? We are recording it, right? We can share it later, right?
Yeah, we can share it when. Yeah.
Okay, so we can share this on so you can follow my social media handles. I'll share the full recording there later for you to watch. About the certificate, yes. When we finish after the 8 week, I'll give you a certificate signed by me saying that you have learned 1 or 2 things from my class, and I'm happy to have engaged you. There's a question that says, can one practice with a certificate that will be awarded after the class? I don't know. If you go to a media house and you tell them, oh, they say, where do you learn your journalism from? You say, oh, I learned from Umaru Sanda. For how long? 2 months. They say they want to give you a job. Fair enough. I am not offering people jobs. I'm just offering people my knowledge. If that knowledge will give them a job, that is really out of my hands. So that's all I can say for now, but I can give you a certificate. I am not a school. I am not a university. I'm not an institute. I'm just sharing my knowledge and giving you evidence that you got some knowledge from me. Thank you so much.
The last question was supposed to say, but I say it's out. So Galaxy A12, you can speak for it. Yeah, Galaxy A12. Okay, I think maybe Galaxy is out. But so, Sanda, maybe let me also ask my question.
Okay, I think the Galaxy person is
after every interview. I mean, is every interview expected to bring a conversation? Is it expected to spike some form of agenda or anything? Is that the mindset before you have an interview?
No. Who is Arafat Jima? I think there's something that is happening to my screen. Okay, Caleb, I think.
Yeah. Galaxy, please, you can speak if you're on, yeah. Yeah, Arafat, if you want to speak, you can go ahead and speak. Arafat, please, we can't hear you clearly. So if maybe you have to increase your volume or sound, please do that for us. Okay, so yes, Sanda, I asked the question, so you can answer my question, then we can move on because I can't hear them.
Okay, thank you. Sorry about that, Arafat. Caleb, so you're asking whether every you're asking whether every interview should generate a discussion. I mean, there are different types of interviews. There are interviews that you're looking for information. For instance, if there's an accident and I call up somebody, I just want to know what happened. How did the accident happen? Did someone die? What happened to the bodies? Maybe that's the end of it. But I could also do another interview and look at the trend of accidents in the past 1 month or in the past 3 months or in the past 1 year. Then we are going to generate a discussion and say, this and this is what's been happening and it is not a good thing and let's work towards it or against it. So every interview has its own approach. That's what I can say.
All right. Thank you. So once again, I want to thank you all for being part of this conversation. It's been nice having you. I'm sure we've learned 1 or 2 things for the day or for the night. And I hope for those who are interested to be part of the class, I've shared the link in our chat. So you can just click on the chat and you see the link to register for the class. Like I see some of our students in. Thank you so much for signing on. And Sanda, if you have any last words,
Well, I'll just say thank you all for spending your Thursday evening with us instead of going to chill or something. I'm happy. I'm excited, and I look forward to seeing all of you in class. I think we'll all learn together. There are more areas I'll be looking out for and looking up to. If you're a student of journalism, you want to join this class. If you're a practicing journalist, you just want us to engage and even possibly debate, I'll be happy to host you. And